نحن لما صممنا المشروع نظرنا لإيش التجربة اللي ممكن ناخذ البلديات فيها، وبلشنا بتصميم يومنا اليوم مثل تقدر تشبك لي اياها لو سمحت على البرزنتيشن. صممنا اليوم مثل نحكي المظلة من مفهوم النكسس بشكل عام إلى تطبيق النكسس في البلديات، ومثل ما وقت ما فهمنا كيف نطبق مفهوم النكسس في المناطق الحضرية بندخل بعديها لإيش دور البلديات في تطبيق النكسس، ومن هناك كيف نحن بنقدر نمكن البلديات من انهم يصبحوا شركاء لنا في تحقيق الاستدامة، ومين بده يشارك معنا من منظور النوع الاجتماعي، واخيرا ايش اول خطوة بناخذها على طريقنا في موضوع او فرصة ذهبية مثل ميثاق العمداء، وبعديها بنختم بإيش وسائل التواصل اللي نحن ممكن بعد اليوم نخلي المومنتم والحوار والحديث والتعارف شغال ونبني عليه لما كل واحد يرجع على بلده. خلينا نرحب بالدكتورة نسرين اللحام والسيدة روث إرلبيك من الوكالة الألمانية للتعاون الدولي في موضوع الترابط بين المياه والطاقة والغذاء في المناطق الحضرية، وتجربة برنامج الحوار حول الترابط في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا. وبرضه خلينا نرحب بالدكتور هولجر الخبير السويدي في مجال ترابط المياه والطاقة والغذاء. شكرا، تفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صباح الخير مرة ثانية. وسأقوم باستعراض الأنشطة الرئيسية للبرنامج الإقليمي للترابط في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا. هذا البرنامج هو جزء من البرنامج الحواري. ممكن بس مساعدة؟ البرنامج الإقليمي للترابط في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا هو جزء من البرنامج العالمي للحوارات بخصوص الترابط، المشروع بدعم من الاتحاد الأوروبي ووزارة التعاون الاقتصادي والتنمية الألمانية BMZ، وبتنفيذ من الوكالة الألمانية للتعاون الدولي GIZ، حيث تقوم الأمانة العامة لهذا المشروع بالتنسيق بين المناطق المختلفة للمشروع وبتبادل المعرفة حول الترابط. وهذا المشروع تم البدء فيه في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا، ولحقت به منطقة أمريكا اللاتينية، ومجددا انضمت إليه منطقة حوض النيجر وإفريقيا الجنوبية ووسط آسيا. الهدف الرئيسي من المشروع هو تعزيز دعم مشروعات الترابط بين المياه والطاقة والغذاء في هذه المناطق لدعم أو المساهمة في دعم تأمين الأمن الغذائي وأمن الطاقة وأمن المياه في المنطقة، وتحقيق الاستدامة الموارد الطبيعية المرتبطة بهذه القطاعات الثلاثة. المشروع هو في مرحلتين، المرحلة الأولى للمشروع حتى عام 2018 وهي البنية الأساسية للمرحلة الثانية فيما بعد ذلك لتحديد مشروعات فعلية ممكن أن يتم من خلالها تحقيق الترابط على الأرض بصورة فعلية. يتم تحقيق هذه الأهداف للمشروع من خلال 4 محاور رئيسية. المحور الأول هو التبادل المعرفي بين المناطق المختلفة للمشروع. المحور الثاني هو تنمية القدرات البشرية في مجال الترابط. المحور الثالث هو منبر المعرفة للترابط، والذي أدعوكم جميعا للاطلاع عليه بما يحتوي من معرفة ومشروعات خاصة بالترابط، والمساهمة أيضا في نشر ما لديكم من أبحاث ودراسات ومشروعات للترابط عبر الرابط www.water-energy-food.org. ونحن نتطلع أيضا للشراكة مع المنبر الذي تعتزم مشروع ميناريت بإنشائه أيضا للتبادل المعرفي بين هذين المنبرين. وأخيراً إعداد دراسات على المستوى الوطني ومشروعات استرشادية صغيرة خاصة بالترابط. تم عقد الاجتماع الأول للجنة التنفيذية في مارس 2017 في بون، ومن المزمع أن يعقد الاجتماع الثاني للمشروع بدعم الاتحاد الأوروبي في الشهر القادم في بروكسل. بالنسبة للأنشطة المخططة لبرنامج الحوار للترابط في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا، هي في البداية دعم جامعات الدول العربية كشريك رئيسي للمشروع في توفير المعرفة الخاصة بالترابط، تنمية القدرات البشرية لإعداد قاعدة من الخبراء المختصين بالترابط في المنطقة من خلال تنمية القدرات البشرية، وإعداد دراستي تقييم للترابط في تونس والسودان بهدف البحث عن التحديات والفرص الكامنة لمشروعات الترابط لتطبيقها. إعداد مشروعين صغيرين يمثلان الترابط في المنطقة، مشروع الاستزراع الشمسي في الأردن وتقييم نتائج هذا المشروع الذي كان من المزمع تنفيذه بواسطة مشروع أكوم تابع للGIZ ولم يتم تحقيقه، لاستنتاج بعض الدروس المستفادة من هذا المشروع. وأيضا مشروع في تونس خاص بضخ المياه باستخدام الطاقة الشمسية. وأخيراً إعداد خطة عمل في المرحلة الثانية من المشروع تضم قائمة من مشروعات الترابط نتيجة لهذه الدراسات. منهجية العمل في هذا المشروع هي التعاون مع ما يتم من مبادرات في المنطقة مثل المبادرات التي تقوم بها منظمة الإسكوا ومشروع ميناريت أيضاً وغيرها من المبادرات. من نتائج التي كانت لهذا المشروع إعداد 6 أوراق سياسات بالتعاون مع جامعة الدول العربية وبمجموعة من الخبراء المختصين. هذه أوراق السياسات تم تبنيها في مجلس الوزراء المياه العربي، وهي موجودة على الرابط الذي ذكرته منبر الترابط، وأدعوكم جميعا للاطلاع عليها. هي باللغتين، اللغة العربية واللغة الإنجليزية، وهي موجودة معنا هنا. بالنسبة لتنمية القدرات البشرية والأنشطة المختصة في هذا المجال، تم إعداد محتويات تدريبية بالتعاون مع معهد ITT في بون. المحتوى التدريبي الأول خاص بمفهوم النكسس والترابطات والتداخلات بين القطاعات الثلاثة والأدوات تقييم الترابط وأدوات تنفيذه. المحتوى التدريبي الثاني خاص بدراسات حالة من أوروبا وألمانيا للاستفادة من الدروس المستفادة على المستوى الوطني والمستوى الإقليمي فيما يختص بحوكمة الترابط. وهناك محتوى تدريبي ثالث تم إعداده بواسطة مشروع الGIZ، الإدارة الموارد المتكاملة في المدن الآسيوية، تحت عنوان الترابط الموارد في المناطق الحضرية. وزملائنا من البرنامج معنا هنا لإعداد الورشة التدريبية التي سأقوم بالإعلان عنها التي ستبدأ غدا. تم إعداد ورشة تدريبية بالتعاون مع منظمة الإسكوا بخصوص التجارب الألمانية والأوروبية في الورشة النهائية أو الختامية لمنظمة الإسكوا على المستوى الإقليمي كجزء من أخير في المبادرة لتنمية القدرات الخاص بالمياه والطاقة في منطقة الدول العربية بمشاركة 13 دولة عربية. ومن المزمع غدا أن يتم العمل على الورشة التدريبية الثانية بحضور ممثلي البلديات جميعا. وفي الواقع احنا نتطلع لهذه الدورة أن تكون استكمالا لجهود ومبادرات الترابط لتنمية القدرات في المنطقة التي هي على المستوى الإقليمي والمستوى الوطني. أما على المستوى المحلي أو مستوى البلديات فهذه تعتبر المبادرة الأولى لمشروعات ترابط. فنحن نتطلع لأن يكون هذا المحتوى التدريبي وما سوف يتم إعطائه من مواد أو من توجهات لمشروع لنهج الترابط، إضافة للمشروعات التي سيتم تطبيقها والتي سيتم أيضا سيكون لنا الحظ أن نعرف ما هي الآثار لهذه المشروعات أو الإمباكت للمشروعات على المدى البعيد، لأنها من مشروعات سيفترض أن يتم تطبيقها على الأرض. ونحن نشكر زملائنا الذين حضروا من تايوان من مشروع الإدارة المتكاملة للموارد، دكتورة روث ودكتور رالف، الذين قدموا خصيصا لإدارة هذه الدورة التدريبية التي ستكون غدا على يومين، وهو في الحقيقة برنامج تدريبي مكثف، وتم إعداد المادة التدريبية باللغتين العربية والإنجليزية، والتي سيتم أيضا الحصول عليها من خلال الرابط ومن خلال أيضا بشكل مباشر للمشتركين في الدورة غدا. وأحب التنويه هنا أن هذه الدورة كما ذكرت المحتوى التدريبي لها مكثف جدا، فأدعوكم جميعا للالتزام في الوقت أنها تبدأ الساعة 8:30 صباحا بالتوقيت الألماني، علشان نقدر نستكمل البرنامج التدريبي على أكمل وجه ويكون لي تأثير فعلي في إعداد المشروعات المقترحة، لتكون ليس فقط مشروعات لكفاءة الطاقة أو الطاقة المتجددة، ولكن أيضا تتضمن الثلاثة قطاعات بشكل تكاملي وبشكل فعلي. والآن أدعو زميلتي دكتور روث لإعطاكم فكرة عن مشروع الإدارة المتكاملة للموارد في المدن الآسيوية، لإلقاء الضوء على مفهوم الترابط في المناطق الحضرية بشكل عام وحالات دراسية من المدن الآسيوية. وشكرا.
Thank you very much, Nisreen, for your kind words and the kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Salam alaikum. That's where my Arabic unfortunately ends, but I'll try in English. Can you give me the presentation? First of all, I would like to thank you in particular the organizers for having invited us over here to share our experience from Southeast Asia with you over here in the MENA region. The project we are managing is called Integrated Resource Management in Asian Cities, the Urban Nexus, but I think that's what this Urban Nexus is all about. It is about integrated resource management. We are in particular concentrating on urban areas. This project is financed by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ. We are implementing this project in collaboration with the Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific, from the United Nations. This is sort of similar, it's a sister organization to the UN ESCOA, which is sort of collaborating over here in the MENA region. Moreover, we are cooperating, or our implementation partner is ICLEI. This is an association worldwide of more than 1,500 cities. They are very close to the cities and have a very close networking with the cities. This project is in the second phase, coming to an end by 2019. I think we can say, as to my knowledge at least, this is the oldest Nexus project ongoing as far as I know. This project is a regional project like the projects you are having here right now and we are discussing here. It is implemented in 12 partner cities in 7 countries. So from north to south, we start off in Ulaanbaatar, which is, by the way, the coldest capital of the world, in Mongolia, going via China, India, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. The size of these cities vary between roughly 3 million and 300,000, so we are concentrating on secondary cities, not on metropolis. So what is the rationale? I think it fits to the whole discussion we're having over here. It's of course the demand for fresh water, energy and food, which will rise by up to 50% by 2030, as experts say. So we shall definitely face crisis because we will not be able to cope with this rising demand if we continue with the existing consumption and production patterns. We'll have some experts say war on water. War on water, by the way, has already started in some of the Indian states. Karnataka, where there's just not enough water, and people already go for war on this. But finally, I think this project, and that's what we were discussing over here too in the last 2 hours, concentrates on cities who have this famous formula of having only or disposing only of 2% of the land worldwide. This is very little. This is astonishing. More than 50% of the population worldwide already lives in cities. Cities produce 75% of the greenhouse gas emissions. This is rather alarming, but, and that is the opportunity, they contribute to up to 80% of GDP, which is sort of really, that's good for us. Cities, I think, are actually the power machines, or should be the power machines worldwide. And cities play a leadership role in addressing climate change, in achieving the SDGs and the new urban agendas. They should be more empowered, they need more finance, they need more human resources and mandates, and this has to be supported, this process has to be supported by the national governments. Coming once more to the urban nexus, this funny animal a lot of people have problems with. Well, it is about the interdependencies between water, energy and food. It's about their synergies. What do we mean? Out of wastewater we can produce energy, we can reuse the water, we can use the nutrients for agriculture. And about the competing uses, I think we all know what the competing uses are. The most familiar example is, do I use the piece of land I have, and we know that land is very scarce, do I use it for biofuel production, or do I use it for food production? It's a question of political decisions, it's a question, and Nexus can help there, at least to make these decisions rational or transparent. The Nexus approach, this means looking out of the box, getting out of the box, is a fundamental shift in the way of thinking from a sectorial to a cross-sectorial, systematic, holistic approach. The Nexus approach challenges existing organizational structures. I mean, the big monosectoral ministries we all have, the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Natural Environment, all strong ministries who come up with wonderful policies, however, do not really coordinate each other, and their sector policies, again, do not relate to each other's. So I think there we need some kind of a change. And the three supply securities, we have seen them already. They are the essential basis for integrated resource management. It's energy security, it's food security, it's water security. They are essential not only for sustainability, they are finally essential for the survival of our cities and the planet if they are used in a protected and balanced manner. Ladies and gentlemen, the linear economy, oops, sorry, that was too quick. The linear economy consisting of take, make, dispose should not be our guiding principle anymore. We cannot give ourselves the luxury to discharge all our wastewater untreated into the lakes or into the oceans. By the way, up to now, 80% of wastewater worldwide is not yet treated and just is discharged into lakes, dams, and oceans with all the consequences we know. Same refers to solid waste. The waste is dumped on dumping sites or so-called landfills or on the beaches and the landscape, as we can see everywhere. Although it can be actually used and might be a valuable good, moreover, it's completely destroying the environment. And we know if you have landfills or dumping sites, even if you close them in an ordinary way, the leachate will still run out 25 years or even longer. So we should we should have other visions. We should concentrate or try to have a vision of the circular economy, consisting of the separation of energy and mass flows, consisting of take, make, return. That is sort of the basis of the circular economy. I would just click it through. So if we look at the left side, at the left side, just have a glance at, for example, the wastewater cycle. We should separate the wastewater into black water because we can produce energy out of it, produce biogas and then energy. The residues can go to agriculture or horticulture. The grey water doesn't need much treatment anymore. If it's separated from the black water, we can use it for irrigation water or for service water. Looking at solid waste once more, okay, we all have the ambitions of doing separation at source. Germany is leading this kind of discussion and the practice, but we could also look at separation at the plants, not the dumping side, but treatment plants. Then on the organic side, you can produce, again, biogas and energy, hence energy out of the organic part of the solid waste. And on the other side, out of the plastics, you can produce RDF, refuse-derived fuel, which you can use for cement plants or other industrial plants because it's sort of an equivalent to coal. However, it is a non-fossil energy, and you can also sort of burn it and again produce energy out of it and feed it into the net. So this is close the loop. This is the circular economy which should be guiding us with regard to integrated resource management. Just let me remain one more minute with the water and energy linkage, which was discussed already broadly, but I would like to emphasize once more that actually for nearly all kinds of energy production, be it coal, geothermal, hydro, oil, gas and nuclear, huge amounts of water are required. That's why we call it thirsty energy. So if you plan an energy plant, you should see for it that you have enough water. By the way, in India, the discussion is just going on right now again as they have a lack of monsoon rain. They had a lack of monsoon rain. They will have to close down or reduce the performance of coal-fired power plants because there's no water, so there will be a lack of energy. 15% of the total water withdrawals are used for energy production. I know that much more than up 70 or 80% of the water withdrawals are used for agriculture, but I'm just discussing now the water energy nexus. Moreover, now from the other side, looking at the water sector, energy is the dominant cost factor for the production of water and wastewater. Up to 30% of the operation costs of water and wastewater utilities are for energy. So water needs energy and energy needs water, and I think that's what we always should bear in mind. Another message I would like to convey here is don't waste the waste. We see it everywhere, lying around, flying around, and actually this waste is could be very valuable because we can produce energy out of it, we can even produce water out of it, and we can recycle the valuables, metal and so on. One of the buzzwords there is urban mining, and I think a lot can be done in this context, and we do consider innovative solid waste management treatment concepts as part of the urban nexus. We have to also consider them. Now I just want to give you here a very brief overview of the countries, the cities we are working in, the areas we are working in. So it's all about creating resilient cities. But how do we create resilient cities? At least I think two aspects always have to be considered. One is the physical infrastructure. The physical infrastructure of the cities has to be improved by innovative wastewater concepts, innovative solid waste management concepts, and energy efficiency of buildings. But of course we also have that's the hardware part of it. But of course we also don't have to forget the software part of it. That means the rules and regulations, the framework as such. And here in particular I want to point out that the tariffs for water and wastewater, normally there aren't even tariffs for wastewater, at least in the region we are coming from. These tariffs are, and I learned in Tunisia it's the same, these tariffs are completely subsidized. They are not cost recovering, they are not consumption oriented, and like this we are disturbing very valuable resources we cannot renew. So I do think slowly but gradually we have to come to cost covering and consumption oriented tariffs. I know it is difficult because politicians don't like to touch this topic, but finally I think we'll have to do so. Now coming to an end, just very briefly the results. We have up to now elaborated more than 30 practically nexus-oriented infrastructure projects. That means infrastructure projects which have a cross-sectorial approach with an investment volume of over 300 million US dollar. Of course, these are the capex, but of course in these studies it's about pre and feasibility studies. OPEX, of course, always also have to be included. A part of these infrastructure projects are already being implemented. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, concretely in the training workshop. I think we have made at least some of the decision makers aware that waste and wastewater should not only be considered a burden, they can be a resource, they can be an additional possibility of creating income for the municipalities and also on the national level. The technologies we have been elaborating or developing mainly from Germany, but adjusted to the local context, often reflect a decentralized approach. However, they are built up in a modular system and hence can be used within existing grid systems. The municipalities we work with have normally created by resolution of the MINARET NEXUS task forces. These are cross-sectorial task forces which are sort of the sounding board for us for the elaboration of these infrastructure projects and the respective legal conditions and environments. A very useful instrument we found out are national-local dialogues, because often municipalities are rather left alone with their problems, with their project, and in particular, I mean, they need finance to implement their projects, and they need the national government there to support them. They need standards, etc., which are issues of on the national level. So with these national-local dialogues, which are normally facilitated by GIZ, we bring the municipalities to the respective national ministries who are concerned and give the cities a voice on the basis of the concrete case studies which had been studied before. This has been partially also institutionalized in some of the countries. We call this vertical integration. And there's also the horizontal integration we are promoting. That means municipalities working together across boundaries for bigger infrastructure projects. This is in particular, I think, useful or recommendable for smaller municipalities if they want to go for solid waste management projects and they don't have sufficient tons per day. So if they join hands, they can come up with economically feasible projects. Of course, it's not always easy, this horizontal integration or clustering, because of the egos of the different municipalities. It's a long way, but I think it makes sense to think in that direction. A very useful instrument to share experiences, peer-to-peer learning. That means cities visiting each other, learning from the problems, but also from the progress of the different cities, exchanging sort of on equal level. Now, this is my second last slide, so don't worry, I'm coming to an end. We consider the Nexus as an action-oriented guiding principle, as kind of a tool in order to go for a cross-sectorial system approach with a vision of a circular economy, as explained, and also embedded in the international agendas we are all caught in. So in particular, the Paris Climate Agreement, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, that means the SDGs, and the New Urban Agenda, which just held its Congress now in Kuala Lumpur. I think the Nexus guiding action-oriented principle helps to implement or to reach the goals outlined in these global agendas. So I would like to end my presentation with a quote of famous Albert Einstein, who said, "We cannot solve the problems with the same level of thinking," that was a monosectorial way, that created them. Thank you. Shukran.
دكتور هولجر هوس فليتفضل.
My presentation.
بس ملاحظة سريعا،
ممكن بس الصوت لأنه القاعة شوي صداها عالي والدكتور هولجر راسه جاي من السويد ليكون معنا اليوم وخبرته فعلا لا تفوت. شكرا.
Thank you very much. Holger Hoff is my name. I'm working with the Stockholm Environment Institute in Sweden and the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Germany. And I'm supporting SIDA as well as GIZ. It's been a long morning and you've heard many presentations. I'm wondering how to keep you awake. Maybe one thought could be that you start from your own perspective, whether you're working at local or national scale, and think about what kind of problems you're dealing with. And when you listen to my presentation and look to my slides, try to extract points that you find relevant that could help you in your activities. And maybe that way I can also bridge a little bit to the following discussions that will dive more deeply into municipalities and the MINARET approach. I would like to come back to this term NEXUS once more. And you saw the slide of the different securities, energy, food and water security, and the different resources, where land is one of them, water is one of them, energy, but also others. What I would like you to emphasize here are the arrows. The nexus is really more about the arrows than the bubbles. The nexus, the term is Latin. It's the Latin word for interlinkages. That's what the nexus is about. And so by focusing on the interlinkages, we like to strengthen integration. As was said before, horizontal integration, that's between the different sectors and between the different resources, but also vertical integration between different levels and scales. For example, bridging horizontal and vertical. This is all the meaning of nexus. I would encourage you not to think too strictly of food, energy, water only. Only if it's food, energy, water, it's the nexus. I don't think that is very helpful. Look at interlinkages, try to emphasize arrows, and try to see how to reach out to other sectors or to other scales. That's, to my mind, nexus thinking. And there have been these kind of integrated approaches before, landscape and ecosystem-based approaches, integrated water resource management. But the nexus is more encompassing and has more impetus at this moment. So the chances are for success that the other approaches may not have yielded. And we heard it's about generating synergies, reducing trade-offs, reducing negative externalities, and improving overall resource use efficiency, using water, land, energy, biomass more efficiently by looking at the arrows and by talking to the colleagues that work on the other bubbles. With that, the term using or producing more with less can be achieved. More benefits with less resources and less environmental pressures, which, by the way, is the same as the famous term decoupling in the green economy. And if you achieve more with less, you also have a better chance for improving human securities and improving human rights, which translates again into having access to water, energy, and food for everyone, or this term, leaving no one behind. And if that's achieved, then there is also the potential for less conflicts and more stability. And as we all know, conflicts and migration lead to lots of human rights violations. So in that sense, a better management and governance through a nexus approach can improve human securities and human rights. And another way of thinking at it is to look always for co-benefits of what you're doing, not focusing only on one objective, like the farmer that may only want to optimize the yield of his crop. A nexus approach tries to find co-benefits. These can be in terms of human health, also environmental health, in terms of climate protection, or the more general term resilience, and I'm happy to go into that, what it means. So the nexus is really not an entity by itself. It's more of an analytical lens, or I say it's a means to an end, not an end in itself. A nexus project should add value to ongoing activities or projects by taking a Nexus perspective. I'm not so fond of saying, well, let's do a Nexus project. Let's have a Nexus ministry. Let's have a Nexus policy. I would see it as a help to do better what you're doing anyways. That's why I was asking you for what kind of problems and issues you're working on, and then we can try to think of how a Nexus and integrated approach can be helpful, and whom to involve, whom to link up with. And as I said, that's for improved management and governance of natural resources in the first place. That's a very general term, and we move now from general to more specific. One needs to contextualize, to adapt and translate the Nexus for a specific context. And I'm in favor of doing it through what I call mainstreaming. I will explain myself what it means to contextualize and to mainstream the Nexus approach. First of all, adapting it to the context of the MENA region, which holds a number of challenges. And you know them much better than me about water and land scarcity, about the pressures that climate brings, about the increasing demands that come, for example, with increasing number of people, in growing economy, striving for better life and lifestyles. What the region also has specifically is abundance in renewable energy. I read somewhere that each of the MENA countries could supply the whole world with enough energy if only all the solar energy was tapped. And at the same time, resource use efficiency is very low, which is kind of surprising. Normally, if a resource becomes scarce, the efficiency goes up to cope with that scarcity. That seems not to work so well yet in the region. Mainstreaming really means to try and integrate into ongoing activities, policies, strategies, and so on. This Nexus approach, the integrated thinking. So as I said, I'm not a great fan of inventing new Nexus projects or Nexus policies, but to foster horizontal and vertical integration. And a brief example, the alignment of water and energy that I have observed in Jordan, I was quite impressed with. The Jordanian Ministry of Water and Irrigation has issued a renewable energy policy for the water sector, or an energy efficiency policy for the water sector. It has also issued a climate resilience policy for the water sector. So with that, it's reaching out to other sectors, trying to break the silos to some extent. And the same is obviously true for aligning municipal and national level. Decentralization seems to be an ongoing trend in most of the countries, but that does not necessarily mean shifting all the efforts to the local and municipality level. There are certainly still many issues that need to be addressed at the national level. So the Nexus approach again appeals to making the links, to be consistent and coherent across scales, to translate what the national policy means into action on the ground at the municipality level, but at the same time to feed back what the municipalities need and experience into new national policies. We all agree, everyone is nodding here, yes, that needs to be done, but it's not really happening very much. And that's not specific to the region. That's we see that everywhere, that this integration is very, very difficult. I call it a vicious circle. And as you can already imagine, at the end of the slide, I will speak towards a virtuous circle. So why is it a vicious circle? We have a lack of good examples where we can see how the Nexus works and what the benefits of a Nexus approach are. We don't understand it well due to this lack of good examples. Therefore, we have little uptake in policy, in business, and also in civil society. And if that's the case, then there is also little support. There's no enabling environment for good Nexus implementations. Well, so there's a lack of implementation, a lack of good examples, which leads us back to not having enough examples to push for the Nexus. To get out of that vicious circle and move into virtuous circles, we really need these examples, and that's where I believe municipalities have a strong role to play, and the MINARET project can help the municipalities to demonstrate the benefits of a NEXUS approach and to become that way sustainability leaders, leading by way of example. I saw that the MINARET project has a dual objective. I'm sure there are more, but I just highlight those two that stuck in my mind. One is to improve policies, regulatory and legal frameworks, and to promote reforms. That's to a large extent at the national level, and improving the enabling conditions for a NEXUS approach. And on the other hand, it's also to implement the NEXUS approach on the ground, practically, with a focus on renewable energy, of which the region has so many. So, again, there's the arrow, the cross-feeding between the national level and the policy context and the practical implementation on the ground. And the implementation largely happens at the municipality and city level, given that so many people live in cities. And with that, we can trigger the virtuous cycle, showing how it works, encouraging replication in other places and upscaling, which means to do more and more of the good. There are many opportunities for municipalities. I'll just show a few. I do not claim that these have to be the MINARET examples. There are many more. And we should probably elaborate over the next 2 days more good examples, and we should see how the ones that MINARET is already working on and plans to work on fit in here. And I guess there are many, many examples that can be used to show the linkages. And I say once more, it doesn't always have to be food plus energy plus water. There can be other good examples. Just a few, I got through them very quickly. Oh yes, and I call them multifunctional systems. I gave this example of the farmer and his crops. So we may want to look for additional benefits, co-benefits out of our production systems. Here is one example, green cities and urban farming. You may wonder if that has a big impact, but there are many opportunities for producing local food, reducing the need for transportation that way, promoting local economy and local production, reducing energy and land demand that way, and through greening and bringing nature into the cities, one mitigates heat, which clearly is a climate benefit, mitigates noise and air pollution, which clearly have health co-benefits. So all these are normally not taken into account when you do sectoral planning. Here's another example of multifunctional system with multiple outputs and co-benefits, rainwater harvesting and storage. Or on the bottom you see increasing infiltration into the ground, keeping the water in the city rather than letting it run off, and in the case of Amman, later pumping it back with a lot of energy amount. Recharging groundwater, having water storage to bridge critical periods. And the bottom one here is the Samra treatment plant of Amman, which is not only about recycling of the water and recycling of the nutrients, but lately it also begins to recycle the energy that's contained in the wastewater and the sludge. This is a practical implementation of the circular economy that we heard about before. One more example from Egypt, engineered wetlands, which is a way of introducing nature-based solutions, soft infrastructure some call it, which cannot completely replace the concrete and steel, the traditional wastewater treatment plants, but it can add, with less energy demand, less chemicals demand, it can help to also recycle the water and the nutrients, and again with co-benefits. For example, fish ponds, which may add another benefit here. This is the type of thinking that I would encourage, not necessarily by these examples only, but think broadly, try to think of your particular business, your particular concern, and see